My name is Maggie, and I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease at a fairly young age. A few years after my initial diagnosis, I started to experience symptoms including anal leakage and severe pain on my bottom. I wasn't yet diagnosed with what I would later find out to be a Crohn's perianal fistula, also known as CPF. I lived with pain and leakage for so many years, and I wonder how my journey would have been different had I been diagnosed earlier. Looking back at what I now recognize as the symptoms of CPF, even though I was in pain, I think I was more upset about the leakage. I was wearing pads all the time and I felt disgusting. Everywhere I went, I was terrified that there wouldn't be a bathroom where I could go clean up. During that time, I went to a summer camp specifically for those with IBD. And we were being pulled around in the lake by a jet ski on inner tubes, and I was so fearful that the leakage would show up on my bathing suit. So I kept falling into the water on purpose to try to hide it. My fistula was definitely the most traumatic part of my Crohn's disease journey. I didn't talk about my Crohn's perianal fistula symptoms for a long time, until I had to. At one point, I was experiencing leakage every night. One morning, I woke up at 5:30 to go to school, and there was so much. I came downstairs in tears and told my dad what I was experiencing and that I couldn't go to school. This was the first time that I told him about my symptoms. He was a bit frustrated I waited so long to tell him because it hurt him to see me suffering. He said, "I can't help you if you don't tell me what's going on." From my experience, it can be harder talking to the people closest to you about how you're feeling because you worry about stressing them out. Before my mom passed away, it was easier talking to her because not only was she my mom, but she was also another woman that I could talk to about the more private parts. To me, a perianal fistula felt like someone had lit a match on my bottom and held it in one spot. It was a very specific and constant feeling. Everyone's experience is different, so remember to talk to your healthcare provider. When I looked, I noticed what looked to be a dent near my tailbone, but it wasn't immediately obvious to me that it went internally. I remember trying to broach the subject of my symptoms with a friend, asking her if she had experienced anything like this, like the leaking, and she gave me a weird look and had no idea what I was talking about. From that point on, I thought, I'm the only one that experiences this. No one else has had this experience, and I don't know where to share it. That was definitely the most devastating. I felt very, very isolated, and I didn't know if I was ever going to break out of it or feel good or start functioning like all of my friends did. The symptoms of my disease consumed my every thought, and I closed myself off because of it. Eventually, I met others in school that had the same disease as me, but I think I was the only one who had experience with CPF. It still made me realize that there were others like me and that I wasn't alone. Then I jumped online to search for others with the same experience, and that's when things really opened up for me, and I started my YouTube channel. I made my first video talking about my Crohn's disease journey, not really expecting many responses. I ended up connecting with hundreds of people around the world with different ages and different backgrounds. As time went on, I saw other people sharing more about their full experience, and that made me more comfortable to share mine. Once I started talking about my Crohn's disease experiences and testing the waters in the online community, I realized how much vocalizing my experience helped me process the disease. I learned pretty quickly that if I framed my uncomfortable experiences as my normal, that other people would react that way too. I speak very matter-of-factly about my experiences, so people aren't so shocked. By the time I posted a video on my fistula experience, it felt like an everyday video. I had already been talking so frankly about embarrassing experiences that I didn't think twice about it. Crohn's disease and Crohn's perianal fistulas are complicated, multifaceted conditions. I tell people that it's important to share their full experiences with their healthcare provider and to ask questions. Even though I'm comfortable speaking online, I still get intimidated when it comes to medical appointments. I try to write down everything I'm experiencing so I remember everything I want to tell them. I think finding a support person, whether it's a sibling, a parent, a spouse, can be so helpful. I have a unique perspective as someone who has experience with CPF and an ostomy. The way that living with an ostomy has become more accepted and more visible is what I really hope to see for those living with Crohn's perianal fistulas. I think the voice of people living with fistulas is not quite as loud, yet. Hopefully, we can get it loud and amplify the voices of people living with this condition to normalize the experience. You are not alone.